Assalamu alaikum, my brother. Ramadan or Eid Mubarak, as we should say. Assalamu alaikum, brother Imam. Eid Mubarak to you. All praise is due to Allah. I'm waiting. This is a wa alaikum salam. Yeah, this is a private broadcast that I'm actually doing for the students in Detroit. So I invited some of the other believers that follow me into this chat. So Eid Kareem, inshallah. So we're gonna. I just want to make sure, is the MUI class on? Type in and let me know. May have missed it, but just let me know if the students from Muhammad University of Islam #1 in Detroit are on Periscope with us. Please let us know. Let me check the Twitter feed, but y'all hanging there with me real quick. We're gonna do something. Oh, okay. So, but you know what you can do? You can replay the broadcast for the students, and so all praise is due to Allah. So we'll do it that way, and it'll be available for you to use for your class. But let me start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is absolutely his messenger. We thank Almighty God Allah for intervening in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, and for his wise choice of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And of course, we are forever grateful to the one that they have left in our midst today, working hard, 83 years old, full of the Spirit. And if we did not hear him this morning, I would suggest that you go back on SoundCloud and listen to the Eid message delivered this morning by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on the Ramadan prayer line. So, brothers and sisters, it's just a few of us in the chat. Like I said, it was a private chat that I was doing for the children at the school. And we're going to produce this broadcast. So I hope that you all will just hang with me for a little bit. And we will go over some of the history as it relates to the Nation of Islam and the development of independent black education here in America. So first and foremost, on July 4th of this year, 2016, the Nation of Islam in the West celebrated its 86th birthday. That means that we're 14 years shy of a centennial. That means 100-year presence here in North America. And we can see that the Nation of Islam has had an impact, not just in America among its own people, but has definitely had an impact on the entire world. The great students of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he produced, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, Imam W.D. Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him, and of course the one that is left today, and our brother and friend, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, all of them coming from the great wisdom and direct tutelage of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, produced by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam, but went on to have great influence and power in the world. So, because this is pretty much tailored for MUI Detroit, I think I'll start with some photographs. These are actual photographs of some of the students that attended the Muhammad University of Islam in Detroit, Masjid Wali Muhammad now. And this picture was actually taken in June of 1962, right outside the property on Linwood, now named the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Boulevard, right there in Detroit. So these are some of the little brothers from the Detroit Muhammad University of Islam in 1962. Also, these are some of the little sisters that attended Muhammad University of Islam in Detroit, Michigan in 1962. One more, it's another group, looks like it's a teacher standing with his little students. But let's get right down to it. The Muhammad University of Islam was actually established in 1932 in the city of Detroit, Michigan, by Master Fard Muhammad, who was directing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the direction of setting up a independent school where we could absolutely educate and make our children some of the brightest and talented scholars on the planet, something that the public educational system of that day was not doing, did not want to do, and quite sad today in 2016, still not doing it. So a big step for us trying to start a school, number one, but then the way that we went about starting the school in Detroit, which was a very bold and radical move for that time, is that Master Fard Muhammad just simply told the followers, the way we start a school is by you taking your children out of the public school system and we start our own. So in 1932, that journey began. And of course, this angered the enemy, and he began to investigate us. He wanted to charge us with contributing to the delinquency of minors because they did not recognize Muhammad University of Islam as a valid school, an accredited school. And so this did not stop the onward progress of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the early believers and the early Muslims. They took very bold steps. And I can just say that because of that, brothers like Imam Nathari and many other people had a school to go to in the late 60s, early 70s, or if it were those that were going to the schools popping up around the country in the 50s, it's because those believers in 1932 paid a hell of a price to establish Detroit MUI #1 in Detroit. And from there, in 1934, the second school was established in Chicago, Illinois, and thus taking the number system of the temples at that time that became MUI, or Muhammad University of Islam, #2. And as we moved into different cities, #4, #3, it took on that same situation. But because of the time period, the teachers of that day were not the traditional teachers that you would see in a public school system, because most of the adults that were attending the temple, most of them never graduated from high school. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as we know, was operating on a 3rd and 4th grade education from the rural South, which is basically no education at all, because in those days you went to school, but if you needed help out in the field, you didn't go to school. You went out there to help make a living so that there could be food on the table and people could survive the best way that they can. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came at a time when schooling was not the situation that was consistent. If you needed to work, you was going to work. Yes, and Brother Imam is letting us know that the first family to pull their children out of the public school system absolutely was Mother Clara Muhammad. And that's why I have a picture of her, because she was always the matriarch of the nation, but also the matriarch of the Muhammad University of Islam. She took great pride in the school, and I'm trying to find this picture of her that best, yes, here we go. This is Mother Clara Muhammad in the 60s. This is in 1967, and she is kissing one of the students of Muhammad University of Islam #7 in New York City on one of her visits, and in the background is the great sister captain trained by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sister Captain Amina Rasul, may Allah be pleased with her. But Mother Clara Muhammad took great pride in the school from day one, and as Imam said, definitely because she was the first one to make the sacrifice. So I just wanted to give that backdrop, because as time went on, more and more students were pulled from the public school system as the temple grew. Hundreds and sometimes 1,000+ people attended the temple meetings in 1932, 33, and 34. And as a result, once they heard that the Savior was asking for the children to go to their own school, the children were taking out in droves. And so one of the first publications, dear Muslims, that national accredited publications that we actually appeared in. You know Time magazine, it's still on the newsstands all of these years later. But in the April 30th edition, 1934 of Time magazine, there's an article here, a little article talking about Muhammad University of Islam. And it is on page 37. I'm going to do my best. If you can see this right here, might be hard to see. But I read this on a previous Periscope, and I would like to read it to you because it's very important to understand the power of what happened in 1934 so that you can understand why, even if it's not a Muhammad University or Sister Clara Muhammad school in operation, any black independent school, any black charter schools owes the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam for these early sacrifices. But listen to what Time magazine reports in 1934, University of Islam. Week by week, during recent months, Negro moppets have been disappearing in batches from Detroit's public school rooms. One day, 10 black pupils would be reported missing, and the next it would be 20. Meantime, reports grew that a Negro cult, that's what they was calling us at that time, a Negro cult school called the University of Islam was making corresponding gains. Now, they're reporting that the school was actually becoming great. The school was actually making progress. It says, alarmed teachers complained to the city attorney. Detroit's truant officers called at the University of Islam, housed on the second floor of an old brick theater building. That was 3408 Hastings Street at the time, 10 blocks east of the city's downtown business district, and had the door shut in their faces, meaning the truant officers came to our school inquiring about the students, and of course, they got the door slammed in their face, according to this article. They went back with police, but the school's instructors were clam-mouthed. See, look at the discipline. They call it clam-mouth, but the teachers were disciplined not to speak because them speaking would have given the enemy information, and they understood their rights, that they didn't have anything to say because we follow the chain of command and we know how to hear and obey, and we have designated spokespersons that speak for us, and therefore we are taught and trained as FOI and MGT not to speak out of turn. So in this, it goes on to say, all the visitors saw were some 40 little black Moors marching in military formation. And they walked in and saw us drilling. So you can see the power and how alarmed they were by the early. This is 1934 now. Keep in mind, we were drilling back in 1934. Our little babies were drilling. Last week, truant officers and police bore down on the school in earnest, seized textbooks, carted John Muhammad, a 24-year-old leader of the cult, Tada Ali, Allah Kushmir, and 10 other instructors off to jail. John Muhammad was actually the blood brother of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he was acting as assistant principal at the time. And then, of course, Tada Ali was a secretary in those days for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but was also working at the school. It says this time they found only 2 pupils, but some 400 were on the school rolls. 400 students on the rolls at Muhammad University of Islam in 1934. Very big, very, very big. 2 days later, a mob of 500 disgruntled Islamites, that's what they called us, but we will say 500 concerned believers in Allah and Muhammad. This shows us, dear brothers and sisters, in the modern time that in 1934, 500 believers went down to deal with what was being done to them. And in this age of 2016, where Islam is under attack, we see a weakness among Muslims. Not only do we see a weakness among Muslims all the way around, we in the Nation of Islam have to check ourselves and ask the question, why are we so slow in making progress when in the 30s, as Islam was just beginning to be taught, they had 500 registered Muslims show up to deal with the concern that they had as it relates to our children. All praise is due to Allah. So look at this. It says, 500 Islamites roared up in front of police headquarters. "Get along," said 5 patrolmen. They were confronted by 5 police officers. Knives flashed, fists flew. A riot squad charged out the headquarters, thocked heads, meaning beat heads, and in 15 minutes the melee was over. 13 policemen retiring for first aid. 13 police officers had to go get some medical attention, and 41 rioters going to jail. Let me show you some of that. Here's a picture of the actual melee, where 13 officers had to get first aid and 41 of our brothers got locked up. That's a picture of the actual fight. These are images. This is one of the FOI getting carted off to jail. He's one of the 41. You see our little sisters out there with their heads covered in the little tams? You see them? Here's another fruit. You see the other clean brothers? See the sisters over here? You see how dignified our children was dressed? It's another brother being carted away. Took 3 officers to deal with him, because I know he had the spirit of Allah. So let's continue reading this article. Arraigned on a charge of contributing to the delinquency of minors by keeping them out of public school, University of Islam instructors kept their mouths tightly shut. From the textbooks, police learned that the school's curriculum included courses in general knowledge of the spook being displayed for 6,000 years, general knowledge of the spook civilization, the duty of a Muslim, sample lessons, the actual knowledge of a son of man has searched for 66 trillion years or more and have not located the spook yet. Oh, they was in our lessons. It says Samson was the man who muscled up the stone in the city of Mecca. It weighed 3,000 pounds. Muhammad killed 6,000 Christians in his time and put 90,000 heads on a pole. Some of that they just made up, because that's just how the enemy does with his media then, and he's definitely doing it with his media now. As a result, though, of that arraignment, these were some of the 41 brothers that were arraigned in the court system of Detroit on April 22nd, 1934. And as you can see, they all take the position of dua, and they do not take the position of raising their hand to swear on the Bible. So, brothers and sisters, as this relates to our development, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad eventually went to prison. And Mother Clara Muhammad and the great sisters did the best they could with continuing to educate our children in the homes of believers and consistently teaching them what they needed to be taught. And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was released from prison in August of 1946, August 26, 1946, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came home and got busy right away. And one of the first things that he did is he established the Arabic language as a course of study in Muhammad University of Islam at a time that we didn't even have an independent building to house the school. But shortly after, in 1947, we did. And as a result, he hired this man. This, you see his back, but this is Professor Jamil Diab. And Professor Diab taught Arabic and Islamic history in MUI #2 in Chicago from 1947 to 1958. And you can see here some of his students. Imam W.D. Muhammad is here. This is his brother, youngest brother, Akbar Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with both of them. This is Imam Don El Kareem right here, and his brother, Carl. This is Imam Kareem's present. He ended up marrying this sister. This is Sister Gloria Kareem, and this is her sister Zahira back here. So these were students in Arabic, and all of them graduated from Muhammad University of Islam fluent in Arabic. But this was also the rearing of clean, civilized, well-behaved children. Because in our school system, we didn't allow delinquency. We didn't allow people to be reckless and wayward. Therefore, everything that we did it with class, civilization, dignity, and order. We were taught as young brothers, and I'm sure Imam can tell us that they were taught and trained to protect the sisters from little boys in Muhammad University of Islam. That if they walked across the street from the mosque or from the school, the brothers would be on the outside and the sisters would walk in between. Or if the adults were there, the adults would make a barrier. The FOI would make a barrier for our children and teachers to walk through. I got some of that on film, and hopefully one day, inshallah, I'm going to share this. Yeah, Imam said, no school could have prepared me better, and I'm eternally grateful to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for keeping that going. Now, look, this is a scene of MUI students in New York getting ready to go to the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. Look at how clean and dignified and orderly they are. Look at them on the subway cars. In the buses, excuse me. Dignified and clean. Okay? Show you some of the high school classes. Look at how clean and dignified we are in our suits and garments. See? Muslims come here and enjoy their freedom of religion today, but the Nation of Islam and the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad paid a hell of a price for everybody to be able to come in and do that. So let me move on. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad eventually got so strong we had 46 University of Islams across America, and he eventually wanted to build an Islamic university. The reason that we needed an Islamic university is because not only did he want our children educated on the grammar school level or the high school level, he also wanted us to begin to move into the development of college level courses that our children could literally graduate out of school at 12 and 13 years of age. And many did across the cities and actually went to college. And so this is the beauty of Muhammad University of Islam. I would like to just do a few things. I'm going to show you some of the covers of the yearbooks. These are popular. 1973 Muhammad University of Islam yearbook. Let me see. I might can find something in here. Let's see if Muhammad University of Islam #1. I think I found something. All right. So this was the graduates and some of the teachers and students of Muhammad University of Islam in Detroit. And to my sister, I will scan that page for you if you don't have one of these in your city, and send that to you so you can share it with the children. Great mathematician and school teacher and principal, Dr. Lani Shabazz, or Imam Abdul Alim Shabazz, may Allah be pleased with him. He returned to Allah 2 Ramadans ago. I'll never forget that, because he was blessed to return to Allah in the month of Ramadan, and we were blessed to attend his janazah in the Masjid Muhammad, or formerly Mosque number 4, that he labored and soldiered in. They had their own yearbook. Mosque number 4 had their own University of Islam yearbook. This is their yearbook from 1971. Chicago had one, but in D.C., they had their own. And as you can see, some of our children, clean, dignified children working in the school. Let me find some sisters, balance this out. Pardon me. Yeah, you see the brothers and sisters right there. This was the national MUI yearbook from 1970. This was produced in Chicago for #2. And let me find you a nice picture in here that I think that you would like. I saw something in one of these yearbooks that I thought we could share with you. Oh, while I'm on that note, Notice that the students in MUI, when they made prayer, they took the Qiyam position, which is the greatest position that we can do. We go to Sajda, which is humble and great, but Allah permits us to stand back up. And we were taking that position in those days and making our prayers in dua, letting you know that the actual etiquettes of Salah was actually being taught in those days. But I wanted to find this picture. Just bear with me if you could. This history is great. And I know y'all listening intently, and I know this is a private broadcast, but if y'all could, do me a favor. Tap that screen a little bit. I need to see some hearts. After all, it is Eid, isn't it? Tap that screen for me. There we go. There we go. There we go. I want to find this picture to let you know what was going on. Give me a second. Here it is. I want you to look real close right here. You see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan visiting the school in Chicago. He was the national representative for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in those days. So he was visiting the science fair for that. And so I just wanted to share that. Also, and Brother Imam, you know this because this was probably popular in Newark at the time as well, even though it came out in 1963. Ibn Mubarak, our first Arabic alphabet book. This was produced by Abdul Basit Naim, and the photographs was done by the famed artist Eugene Majid, who drew most of the cartoons and things in that time. And as you can see, our children were taught the Arabic letters and all kind of things. There's Kaf. All right. So as I close this private broadcast, because this was for the students of Muhammad University of Islam #1, and they're working on a project, so I'm going to actually read some of the questions the students emailed me, and they can go back and listen to the broadcast and learn what we did today. And so I'll do my best to answer. Imam says, yes, sir. That's the book we learned from 3rd grade, 2 days a week. Alhamdulillah. All right, so Sister Khadija, Khadija Nicole says, in the name of Allah, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak at that time. I pray that this letter finds you in the best of health and spirit. Dear Brother Carlos Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum. I'm writing you about a MUI project I have. Hopefully, I could ask you a few quick questions regarding MUI history and what you may know. Also, great advice for the youth, if you don't mind. I'll start with the last question. It is a beautiful time in your life in your youth, when you're young and you're vibrant. But it is also a vulnerable time, dear brother and sister, but dear sister in particular. You're in the best environment by being in a Muslim school, among Muslims who care and Muslims that will protect you. Don't ever take that for granted, because we live in a very cold, cruel world. I came to the doors of Muhammad Mosque at 15 years of age, and what I found, though I did not attend a Muslim school, but the mosque became my school. And the believers in the mosque became my protectors and my teachers, and taught me how to become a man, and taught me how to become responsible, and taught me the proper respect for sisters and women. So I'm saying this to you, that in an age where there's so much evil that the Satan is blasting society with every day, that many of us that are grown and so-called mature fall victim, but they're aiming at you because you are the future generation. So I've been in this since I was 15. I'm blessed to be 43 years of age. My children are now grown up, and I thank Allah for an environment that could teach me how to be a man, but also be a protector, not of my own family, but be a protector of the believers' families, because we've come too far to allow our children to grow up and slip further behind in the muck and the mire of this enemy civilization that is destroying our people each and every day. So my advice to you, dear sister, is this. Be dignified. Be civilized. Even if the world we live in tells you there's something wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with growing up in an environment where you don't indulge in drugs. You don't have to indulge in drugs to prove to people that you're down with them. So many of us did that, and we paid a price. You don't have to take your clothes off to get the attention of no man, because what God gave you is for the man that he intends for you. So there's nothing wrong with being chaste and keeping yourself in a dignified manner. Take the training of the MGT seriously, but more importantly as well, coupled with that is your education, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not want us to go to a school only to sit around and do nothing. He sent many of his secretaries to good colleges and universities in the Chicago area, as well as Tuskegee, Alabama, and even sent them to the prestigious women's college in France, the Sorbonne. That's how valuable education is to you, dear sister, since the woman is the man and children's and humanity's first teacher. So that's my advice to you as a young person, and we can't wait for you to grow up a little older, inshallah, to take the leadership position, because we're not gatekeepers. Well, at least we're not trying to be gatekeepers, but if there are gatekeepers, we're going to pay a price for trying to keep a gate closed for some while we wait on somebody that we want, that we can control. No, if the gates are closed, sister, don't worry about that building. Just go and erect a building for yourself that you got the keys to. And your keys, Elijah Muhammad taught us, is knowledge itself. So, some of the history. What expectations do you have for MUI? The same expectation that Master Fard Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had. And that is to create and make the greatest and brightest students and most civilized students that you've ever seen to go on and become great scientists and contributors to our world of Islam and the world in general. Do you know that from Muhammad University of Islam, number 4 in Washington, D.C., they have produced over 50 Islamic scholars in mathematics right from that in the Muslim world that came and graduated out of that school under Dr. Lani Shabazz. May Allah be pleased for him. There are great Muslim scholars in the world that are graduates of Muhammad University of Islam. There are great imams all over the country that had their rearing in Muhammad University of Islam. So what expectations do we have that know about that and have come from that? We expect the same thing, but you know what? There's no ceiling. You take it higher and higher, because we are only what we strive for, dear sister and brothers that will look at this broadcast. But remember, the human being Allah created for unlimited progress. So don't let nobody hold you in no little box called mosque, because in the Quran, Allah says that the entire planet is his prayer carpet. In other words, the planet is his mosque. The mosque is only a symbol of the greater mosque, and that is the building of the kingdom of Islam on this planet. So don't you get stuck. Don't you get stuck in no mosque meetings. That's not why you're going to school. You're going to school to make a greater reality for those of us that come to the mosque to worship, that we will have a reality to step out of the place of worship and see the tangible result of what we built through education and through the power of our own minds and hands. Yeah, Mecca first, but then we got to eventually build Medina, because that's how Islam really took off, because Medina shows us the tangibility of what we've been preaching for a very long time. So that's our expectations. I don't mean to preach, but it is Eid. Now, if MUI is not in the best shape as expected, what could be done? Well, when something is not in the best shape, we analyze it. We take a look at it. And we then put our minds and take the brightest minds together, and those that are willing to make something better happen, that's what you do. But don't lose focus because things are not what we want them to be. Remember now, we didn't have these fine, fancy buildings back in the 30s. We had a second room floor, and then when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went to jail, we had to meet in our homes, and we didn't have grand homes in those days, but we loved each other, and we had Islam, and we respected each other, and we were on our point of mission. And we didn't let anything or condition stop us, because we knew that Allah promised us that he would make our condition better over time. So don't you give up and don't you quit. If you can make it better, then make it better. But if you think you can't make it better, support those who can, because they're going to make it better for you. Last question from Sister Khadija Nicole. They asked a lot of questions. So all of those that are on the broadcast right now, thank you for sticking with me, because I'm doing their questions at this time. What is the best advice you could give a student coming from the public school? Well, the public school system, depending on what public school you went to, but I can almost speak for all of them, they're cesspools of filth. Especially in today's society, there's no respect for females. There's no respect for males. That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that there must be separate times of instruction for the girls and for the boys. He taught us that there must be separation at a certain age in the classroom so that we would not lose focus on the natural inclination that we have towards each other. But today, you go to public school as a young girl growing up and beautiful, but you're being approached by another female that wants to be with you in a manner in which your brother should be with you. That's not the way of Allah, though we're not judging any of them, but we know that there's a perversion that came in that has caused that horrible act to be among our people today. And they are saying that it's right. But I'll tell you this, the danger of that is that the public school system does not respect or acknowledge God. And that is the root of what you belong to. That is the root of Muhammad's Mosque and Muhammad University of Islam, that we are believers in Allah, and that besides him there is no other God, and that Muhammad is his messenger. And so the manner and the way of Muhammad is the best thing that you could be invited into coming out of the public school system. I'll share this note with you though. So powerful is the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I heard it when I was in high school. And man, I turned that high school out, because I was refusing for the school to turn me out, because I was already turned out before I heard the teaching. But the teaching fixed me up. And as it fixed me up, I was bold enough to go right back into the environment that I used to act up in and teach them the teachings. And over time, they fought me a little bit. But then eventually they came around to see that if Carlos could make a change with that message, then damn, anybody can. So I would just say to you, that you coming out of public school to the University of Islam, or if you have a friend that wants to attend the school, it's the best thing that could happen to them in today's standards, so that they can get focused on their education and not all of the distractions that go on around them. Imam Nathari was telling us in his day, the boys went to school from 8:30 in the morning to 12 noon, and then the sisters from 12:30 to 3:30. And I have some film footage of that that will show you, and I'll share that with you, inshallah. When I see you all in a few weeks out in Detroit, I'll be speaking at your graduation, and I'll bring the artifacts and the archives with me for the school and for the students to drink in and learn from. If you don't mind, we're just going to take a few more minutes, and I'm going to answer some of these questions. Let me see. All right. This is from Brother Quran. Beautiful name, brother. Says, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Carlos. I hope all is well. This is Brother Quran, and I'm going to send you my questions. What was the purpose of MUI being built? Well, the establishment of MUI was to set up a new educational paradigm, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us. In that article I read earlier, and where the enemy was actually talking about some of the things that we were teaching, do you know that we were teaching our students, and the first and second grade and third grade even, multiplication and division and subtraction? But then by the time you were in the fifth or sixth grade, you were already looking at algebra and trigonometry and geometry and calculus. We don't have to wait. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said you can have a University of Islam or a university under a tree at 3, as long as you got some knowledge to teach. So that was the purpose, and that is the purpose of independent education. For if we are believers in Allah and following the example of Muhammad, then we understand that we cannot go to a place or be in environments that are against that. We must have a place that we can educate and produce future world leaders for our people and for humanity. How did MUI affect the United States of America? Quite simply, we fought hard and we won because we had a right to educate our own children, and we showed what clean, dignified education looked like. And as a result, anybody that has an independent school for black children or a charter school targeted at making black people better, you better give credit to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, for we paid a hell of a price for you to walk in and do what you do today. So that is the effect that we've had on the United States. And in many respects, they hate that because they want us to produce students that are not up to par. In fact, the public school system are the killing fields today, and that's why our young brothers leave in middle school or early years in high school. And then, sister, you graduate from high school and you can't even meet your counterpart on the other side. He's no equal for you, and that creates an imbalance in the family and what the future holds. And this is all a conspiracy of the enemy against us. So that's the purpose of Muhammad University of Islam, to establish a new educational paradigm to which there would be absolutely no end. What was the difference about MUI back when the messenger was here, versus now? Well, I didn't have a chance to go to the University of Islam, but I've done a careful study of it. I have my brother Imam on watching the broadcast. Nathari went to Muhammad University of Islam. What I can say, what might have been different in those days versus now, is that, the minister had to rebuild everything. He had to reestablish the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in a relevant way after a time had come when his name was not even mentioned. So part of the difference is that what we saw in the 60s and 70s at its height literally started in the 30s, and it took a long time to build up to that. And so when we kind of see the images that I showed you, that was a work in progress for a very, very long time. I think that MUI today is affected by, and it's not a bad thing, we've moved on. The world has moved on. Teaching modules have developed in a greater way. The technology, I was getting right there. The technology is what we have access to. The fact that I'm even doing this broadcast right now shows that this is something that was not available in the 30s. This was not available in the 40s or the 50s. But even though in the 70s, the minister would sit at his desk and on closed circuit television, he would talk to all of the students in the classroom in Muhammad University of Islam number 7, because technology was moving along. And so, yes, same model, same principle, same educational paradigm, but we're now in a modern age with more at our resources. Therefore, we should be able to quicken the pace with all of this technology. All right. And we can go deeper into that, but I'll talk to you, Brother Quran, when I get out there in Detroit, Michigan. I have not seen any hearts in a little bit, so can y'all tap the screen? Show your brother some love. Let me go on. Let me see if I have any more questions from the students. Let me see, Detroit. Okay. All right, this is Brother Jihad. Or some say Jihad, which is proper pronunciation. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Assalamu alaikum, and Ramadan Mubarak at that time. I pray this letter finds you in good health and spirit. Dear Brother Carlos, I am Jihad, a student of MUI Detroit. Sound good, brother. I am emailing you because I need your help on a class assignment. We are focusing on the history of MUI, and I would like to know what you have to say in a brief interview. The questions are, how does MUI stand out from other schools other than religiously? I think the standard of education and what is expected of the students. One of the things is that in the public school system and even in other parochial schools, you may have the aesthetics and you may have a disciplinary culture in those schools, but the standard of what we're trying to produce. Some may disagree with the fact of what I'm getting ready to say, but it is absolutely correct to say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted to make us gods of this world. Gods in the best example, that we were reflecting God, the Almighty, in everything that we did. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan coined a phrase and said something that I think is very, very profound, since we are still battling white supremacy, which is really at its height, even greater during the time of the civil rights movement, because at least we knew in the 50s and in the 60s who the enemy was. He said, you destroy white supremacy with black excellence. So what separates MUI is that we destroy white supremacy or any other thing that is an enemy to our rise with black excellence. We're unapologetic that we can be excellent, but black excellence. C. Eric Lincoln coined the phrase black Muslim, but it takes on a whole nother shape because Elijah Muhammad never fought him on that. Even though he said to his student, Minister Farrakhan, he said, oh, brother, black is not national. Black is universal. It's the essence out of which all color comes from. So it is out of the darkness of the womb of space, and also the darkness that Allah brings and perfects his light out of it, so that things can go into motion, so things can find its aim and purpose through obedience to its maker and its creator. And so the human being is the best creation of God, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. So each and every one of you as a student are created with aim and purpose. So the school is designed for you to find your aim and purpose and push you as far as you can go until you get on autopilot and you just go as high as you can go, that Allah will take you. So that's what the difference is, I believe, from other schools. It's just that the focus is on other things. And in fact, as the minister said, the public school system is dumbing down the American society. Muhammad University of Islam is trying to build you up into a little God, a little brother and sister that's growing into a big man and woman moving with force and power. That's God, from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What do you think makes Chicago MUI the great school that it is? Well, the Chicago MUI is just a reflection of the Detroit MUI or the Atlanta MUI or the School of Original Thought in Baltimore or MUI in Oakland or MUI in New York City and in Washington, D.C. But yet that's our headquarters, and of course being blessed to have our national mosque there in a facility that already had a school attached to it when we purchased it from the Greek Orthodox Church in 1972. That aesthetically, you might say, well, they have bigger space. But the reality is you're learning the same curriculum that the students in MUI Chicago are learning. So I would not put that one is greater over the other as long as the curriculum is being followed. It doesn't matter the aesthetics or the space that you may have. God will bless us to get better facilities in time, but still take advantage of the great knowledge that you are learning. How does drill affect the students? Well, I read in that article that that's what the enemy saw when they walked into school. They said they saw these little Muslims drilling in military formation. So we were well in formation before Beyonce came. But we thank Sister for calling the black people to formation, but we were already in formation. So drill is the exercise that we take up in our culture that allows us to be able to move and take instructions from one command. And do you know that drill is also a training ground for us learning how to stand in ranks, as the Quran says, those ranging in ranks. Then there's a chapter called The Ranks. And so this importance of how to stand shoulder to shoulder, foot to foot with your brother or sister is all preparation, because in the religion of Islam, we move to one sound. We go and follow one movement being called by a cadence of a drill instructor, but when it comes to prayer, shoulder to shoulder, foot to foot, and one person leading the prayer, one man making the sound, one man making the movement first, and we all follow that command and sound. God knew what he was doing when he trained the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through Master Fard Muhammad. He knew what he was doing by giving us military exercise, because he never wanted us to get the Quran and the religion of Islam and become weak. He wanted us to be strong Muslims that would stand up on the book of Allah and demonstrate the faith that we gained from the book of Allah, so that we wouldn't be like we were in the Christian lifestyle, and that is people preaching one thing but doing something else. Drill prepares us to take instruction, and the best instruction that you can take after you learn the physical drill is you drill that Holy Quran by heart into your mind and your heart, because when you walk that book, you're the best driller out there in society, because what you'll find is when you practice that Quran, your people will fall in formation and follow you. That's the best advice I can give you about what drill does, because I can still drill now. I might drill against y'all when I come up there, but I don't just want to drill up and down the floor, as Minister Farrakhan said. I want to drill myself on the chapters of the Quran and commit them to memory, so you learn to march and do face movements, but also learn the religion and the message of Allah. And that way you will be blessed. You will be blessed to teach millions of people from the book of Allah. Y'all got me fired up. All praise is due to Allah. So, my sister, I'm almost done. I think that was the last question that I had. Yes. That was the last question that I saw in the emails. If there were more, I will take time if you want me to. When I come, inshallah, I will sit in a circle with the students, and they can ask me questions as long as they would like. And if I have an answer for it, I'll give it. If I don't, I'll try to find it from those or a source that can give it to us, so that we will satisfy them in their quest for knowledge and quest for seeking answers to their questions. So I thank you so much, my sister, and thank you for the students and to your children. But we will make this broadcast available. I will put it up into YouTube and allow you to use it for your class. I thank you for inviting me on this beautiful Eid day to be a part of your life, as I've had a beautiful opportunity to talk to you today. Some of the brothers dropped off of the broadcast, but I will say this. Two of these brothers that were watching, Imam Nathari, a great friend of mine and helper and one of my teachers, and of course my brother Richard Muhammad, my brother, my confidant, my brother in Islam, they all will tell you that when I'm talking about this history, I light up, because it's my passion. I'm at my best when I'm talking about the thing that I love the most. This is the way that Allah has blessed me with a gift to retain this information, and so I have to give it to others, because I may be in a state one day where I don't remember anything, because it can happen. So I'm very excited about being invited in to this talk. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I love you all. May Allah bless each and every one of you with a beautiful and prosperous and joyous Eid, and I look forward to being out. All praise is due to Allah. I pray Allah He will receive me as a jewel, and pray that I'm pleasing Him and pleasing His messenger and the contemporary as well as the historic in our process. So thank you all. May Allah bless you. Eid Mubarak, and inshallah I hope to see you all out in Detroit in a few weeks. Assalamu alaikum.